she'd listen to their tales, and she'd just be this curious little child who listened to adventurers talking about, the time they slew some evil dragon, or the time they beat back some evil coven of witches or something. That was her. She was the curious child. That was her backstory. I know. Such a perfect backstory, right? She fits in everywhere. So Dragonis was very conflicting as far as how she was played, because Dragonis was very charismatic in her personality. She was very forceful in her personality because she just kind of had to be. It was just how she was played, because it's what she would do, She would find adventurers and she would be like, hey, buy me a beer, take me up to the room, rock my world. And then when they did, she'd take all their money and then probably leave town if she got caught, But she'd, go downstairs, coming in the front door, mind you, of the bar, and she'd, go ahead and give the waiter or the barman his cut, and make sure, whatever you do, make sure you tip the waiter, because you don't want him to rat you out. Which, thinking back, that's probably what got my character caught in a different D&D session. Yeah, that kind of makes sense now that I think about it. There was a server that I played in. This brilliant guy had gone and taught basically an AI how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Now, when I say an AI, I mean basically it's very difficult to describe. It is an artificial intelligence type of situation, but the AI interacts through what is a very unique perspective, I'm sure. It seems to keep track of the players, and his AI seems to definitely have a lot of rough edges. But the AI that my other friend made reminds me a lot of how Steve played. So I kind of like it, because Steve was a very unforgiving type of DM. It's just, I got so lucky all the time that he couldn't kill me no matter how he tried. I just kept doing things that would just foil every plan he had. So Dragonis, of course, realized, okay, so I'm at this black marketplace, and then this black market type of city. So everyone here is some sort of ne'er-do-well, some sort of bad person. So I probably shouldn't sleep at the local tavern, because my guess is that place is probably full of thieves. Some of them I might recognize. It's like, why would you recognize them? No reason. It's like, I thought you've never left town. I've never left my town. No, but that doesn't mean they've never been to my town. I'm fairly sure there's probably a few people in this city who probably can't return to my hometown ever again. You know? But, it's like that at any type of black market type location. It's a very cloak and dagger type of situation where Dragonis is aware enough to just have the common sense to know, okay, so this is a town of bad people. They do bad things to other things. Some of them are doing bad things to people. Some of them are doing bad things to creatures. But, it's a bad person place. So, probably not a good idea to crawl in their beds. That's probably not the smartest idea, even for someone as skilled as her, where that's kind of her thing. So she, instead of going to the tavern and waiting for someone to buy her a drink, she decided, well, I'm gonna decide to just sleep outside of town. I'll find somewhere outside to sleep. I don't really trust this town because it's a bad town. I'll sleep on the outskirts. Close enough that if I get in trouble, I can go running into the city and go, monsters! And they'll help me. But beyond that point, until I'm in the city, I don't think they'll help me. So I'll stay near the city. But I'd rather stay a little bit away from the town. Maybe find a nice cave to sleep in. So that's what I did. I found a nice looking cave and I went inside, curled up, and I was like, man, if I'm asleep, there's nothing I can do if something attacks me. I'm out here alone, so that's not good. So what I did was I had managed to learn the transmute spell. So I went ahead and I cast transmute on the stalactites and the stalagmites to form myself a stone golem. I was like, can you understand me? How does this work? This is kind of my first time making a golem. And it just kind of stared blankly and just kind of, huh? It couldn't understand me. But it could understand my writing. So I wrote out the instructions in, pictogram. Because it could understand my writing, but it was stupid. As a matter of fact, it was dumb as stone. It was as dumb as a rock. So I drew it picture instructions, and it's like, okay, that's a 300 IQ play right there. Okay. That's more than a 200 IQ play. That's a 300 IQ play. I drew the instructions on the ground for it. And it's like, okay, can you remember these instructions? I'm going to sleep, but you don't need sleep because you're just a golem. So you protect me while I sleep. Okay? Okay. And then my character just kind of slowly drifted off to sleep, being watched over by a stone golem. Then my character woke up to the sound of their stone golem getting attacked by an electrified arrow that had ricocheted off of a nearby surface as the as the golem's sounds had managed to attract a teammate's attention as we were, nestled up in the cave, but the teammate didn't know I was in there. So he just blindly fired into the dark thinking, there's something big and scary and it's breathing in this cave. Okay, I'll just shoot into the cave. You know, why not? And it's like, okay, well, so he shoots in and it ricochets around and strikes the golem in the chest. Now the golem comes just roaring out of the cave full speed and almost makes it to the guy before I get a turn. I come, stumbling out of the cave going, what, huh? Oh, it's you. Oh, your friend. Hey, Golem, he's a friend. It's okay. He didn't know better. Just don't kill him. The Golem was like, and so I was like, oh my goodness, you startled me. I was sleeping in there. What are you doing, shooting arrows at my golem? It's like, your golem? You have a golem? When did you get a golem? It's like, when I made him. It was very fast, very recent addition to my possessions. I have a golem now. It's like, well, how did you get a golem? It's like, well, you know how we were at like that dragon's place, right? And they had like some scrolls and stuff? Yeah. Well, I read on one of the scrolls that I could just kind of do this whole equivalent exchange thing. And so long as it's like, oops. Is the recording still okay? Looks okay. Okay. So my character was like, so I read about this whole equivalent exchange thing on this scroll, and it was looking real cool, and I thought I'd try it out, and then I was like, well, what if I want like a golem, right? And so I was like, I want to try and make a golem. And so I made a golem, and now I've got a golem. And they're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but it worked. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I know, right? It's like, yeah, like, that's awesome. So, my character had a golem. They were like, okay, well, what now? And then we heard, coming from deep within the cave, the sound of something breathing. And we were like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. There was supposed to be just me in that cave. And so we go and we look over at this cave, and the cave entrance starts moving. And we're like, I'm in danger. And so, like, everybody starts showing up at this cave because, big weird mystery cave suddenly starts causing an earthquake as it moves. Yeah, people are gonna show up. And it's like, oh my god, what's going on? It's like, I don't know. I found this cave and I was in it and I didn't touch nothing, but like, I made a golem and then he shot my golem and now the cave's moving. It's like, you have a golem? There is a cave moving. Right. Priorities. Right. Of course. Priorities are important. There is a cave moving. We'll deal with that first. All right. What's the first plan of action? Golem. Attack. Golem charges in. Roar! And the cave bites him in half. It's like, well, he tried. Now what's the plan? I don't know. That was my plan. What's your guys' plan? Well, half of them decided that their plan was to run away. The other half of them decided their plan was apparent suicide because they decided they wanted to go deeper into the cave to try and kill whatever it was that was making the weird noises that sounded like something was, getting ready to eat them all. And it's like, you people don't learn, do you? They were like, no, not really. It's like, yeah, I kind of figured. So my character went to go escape from the cave. My character didn't make it out. My character ended up stumbling back and falling into the cave, meaning my character was now facing down what was apparently an earth leviathan, which later got retconned and turned into a stone dragon. It's like, oh, come on, we killed that thing fair and square. We forced it to give birth, and they don't survive giving birth. So, that was creative right there. That was very creative. That was creativity at work. That's not something most people would think about. They wouldn't think, I want to climb into it and find its eggs and force it to give birth to kill it. No. Most people don't think about that. However, my party was full of a bunch of very strange people, so they thought about that and they did that. And then I managed to transmute us some semi-sentient carts. That was a golem that I made. Just stone carts that followed us around and carried our stuff for us. It's like, really? Yeah, it's a golem. It's a cart. That's a golem. Sort of like Teacup from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, it's a golem, and it's a teacup. Your point? It's like, but it's a teacup, and it's a golem. Your point? It's like, that's just, it's like, yeah, I can transmute myself a golem, why not? What kind of instructions does it need? It needs to know, okay, guard me. Okay, deal. I can tell it to guard me, that's fine. That's not a problem. Because, I know how to draw pictures of telling it to guard me. That's probably the simplest picture ever to draw. So that's the most basic levels of communication. Yes, it understands a language. It doesn't say that it has to be spoken. So I just gotta figure out what language it knows. It might know a language I know. It might not know a language I know. It really depends on who made it, how, and why. So we ended up, I don't remember a lot of the Earth Leviathan fight, because for the majority of the Earth Leviathan fight, I was honestly using my walking stick, my quarterstaff, to remain lodged in its throat. It wasn't choking on me. I was just staying in its throat because I didn't like the prospect of falling into its stomach. Because I was just like, no, I don't want to fall in its stomach. And I wasn't the only one who had that idea. Someone else had that idea too. They were like, oh, hey, you're like right above me. How you doing? I'm doing good. And then like the whole place rumbled, and we did a balance check, and I succeeded. And I looked down and he's gone. And then we do another balance check and I failed, and so I was hanging on to the to the quarterstaff. And so I did another balance check and a strength check, and I tried to pull myself back up while staying up there, and I ended up knocking it loose. But then, like, the creature gave birth and it died, so I didn't really take all that much damage, and so it wasn't that bad, you know? It could have gone a lot worse for me, but I survived because of the quick thinking of my party members, which is honestly really good, because you want party members who are able to think like just like that, where it's just like, oh, hey, doesn't this species like die giving birth? Let's just induce labor to kill it, you know? Like, there can be only one of these things in existence at any given point in time. Why? Not because the gods, no. It's because their eggs are so ungodly large that they just explode when they give birth. It's like, oh, God, that's horrible. Yeah. So there's there's really low chance of reproduction generating a larger population, because for that to happen, they'd have to be twins. And good luck finding twin leviathans, you know. They have a very low chance of a leviathan having a twin. Very low chance, because leviathans are disaster. Leviathans were the equivalent of a titan, you know, a Greek titan, which is to say death incarnate. You know, if you have to deal with a leviathan, you might as well go ahead and get that will and you know, your final goodbyes in order, because if you don't, then you're gonna have some issues. So you want to make sure that you want to make sure that you're definitely very alive for such a situation. You want to take all the preventative measures that you can so that you don't die, because dying is bad. You know, to look at it from a purely points perspective, dying causes you to lose points. So yeah, the capacity of having everything just kind of build up is very the capacity is quite large in a Dungeons and Dragons game for things to just devolve into shenanigans, because it's just something that happens regularly in Dungeons and Dragons, so people are used to it, you know? Like, a lot of the times, it's always something, you know? There's always something, you know? People don't really realize that when they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. They might expect, oh, well, you know, it's this massive fantasy quest, this massive world with all this lore and all these mysteries and magic and dungeons and monsters. And yeah, it is all of that. But, you know, it's also Always Sunny in Philadelphia type of situation where you kind of just get this crazy group of people who are just running around doing all kinds of shenanigans to each other and possibly to the townspeople as well, and probably not the healthiest group of people around. You know, they'll do some of the most stupid things you've ever heard of, and you'll just look at them and say, why? Why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to yourself? Why would you do this to us? You know? And they just look at you and shrug, and it's like, why do I put up with you people? You know? This is why we can't have nice things. And they're just like, well, yeah, but what about all the nice things that he stole? And it's like, he stole those, and half of the time, the people are in here looking for it because they know you took it. It's like, yeah, probably. It's like that meme of the scene with the rogue sitting next to the wizard, and the wizard's like, you know, I can't help but notice that you're sitting there drinking your morning brew out of a gem-encrusted golden goblet. And the rogue's like, yeah, and the wizard's like, what place did we visit that is missing all of its silverware? And the rogue thought about it, and he said, honestly, probably all of them. It's like, oh. So it's not just one location that we've been to that I can't visit ever again because I'm apparently wanted for being associated with you, Mr. Rogue. But on top of that, there's all kinds of other things I can't do anymore as well. Such as bring you to dinner anywhere. It's like, yeah, well, it's a rogue. It's what he does. You know, you can't blame him for being himself. You can blame him for what he does, but you can't blame him for being himself. That was my final pickaxe that I brought with. I cleared out a nice sizable chunk. I think we can both agree that that is a lot of work that I have just accomplished in the last 2 and 3/4 hours. And on top of that, I'm able to sleep the night off, which of course stops the snow, which is nice. Means I don't have to clean up all the snow. Fortunately, not too much snow fell. Oh, we're too hungry to run. So we can't sprint at the moment because we're too hungry. So this is definitely a good time to pay a visit to the smoker so that we can enjoy some smoked food. Some people would even say it's a Gouda food. To those people I say, you need to get help for your terrible puns, Gouda. I mean, if those puns were any more terrible, I'd have to write them on paper. If those puns got too much worse, Strahd would start begging for a stake through the heart. Not because he wanted to die, he just didn't want to hear another pun. Okay. Do 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 do. Mana mana. Do 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 do. Mana mana. So let's see. We've got dirt. Lots of dirt. We've got cobblestone. Lots of cobblestone. So yeah, the misadventures of Dragonus were quite interesting for obvious reasons. Dealing with dragons and monsters and danger and various other potential outcomes that may have caused Steve quite a bit of stress. Let's see. I need to make a pickaxe. I also need a spare shovel in addition to the one that I already have. I need more pickaxes. Okay. So these are still burning through their coal, right? Going strong. Real strong. Jeez. Good thing I saved all of that coal. Some people, they're just like, I'll just use all the coal for everything. It's like, just save some coal, set it aside, try not to use it, because trust me, eventually you're going to want a big project. They're like, nah, just use it. It's like, okay. And then they use up all their coal, and it's like, man, I ain't got no coal for nothing. It's like, well, I have 5 stacks of coal blocks if you need that. They're like, wow, how do you have so much coal? And it's like, well, let's take a look at my building options. And let's take a look at my my choices of what to use when I'm like crafting. Let's see, coal blocks or kelp blocks. I chose kelp. You chose coal. They're like, okay, that's kind of obvious. Yeah, that's understandable. It's like, yeah. Then let's also look at the crafting options for like building. Okay, and they're like, okay, what's wrong with that? And it's like, well, you chose coal blocks. I chose to build with like cobblestone and stone bricks. And they're like, okay, I can see where that might give me a bit of a disadvantage. Black wool is very similar to the coal texture. So maybe if you want to have a black texture, maybe you could think about wool instead of coal. And they're like, an interesting concept. One which I had not considered. It's like, yeah, I noticed. Blast protection. Man, I don't want no blast protection. Take that respiration, though. Let's see, what else we got? Blast protection, unbreaking, unbreaking. Blast protection, unbreaking, unbreaking. It really wants to give me that blast protection. Feather falling 4. Well, why didn't you say so? You have my undivided attention. I might get the respiration on the helmet. But feather falling 4 with projectile protection 4. Of course. First, let me make sure. Aha, they moved it. See? Now I need an extra piece of lapis. Sure, I'll craft 2. Why not? Boop, boop. Make sure. Okay, now I can take the Respiration 1 helmet, Respiration 1 enchanting book. Now it's a Respiration 2 helmet. With some really amazing diamond boots. Okay, I kind of want to put them on now, but I also kind of want to use up my extra armors. Actually get some use out of them before they get smelted down, if they can get smelted down. I also don't want to use up the diamond, the diamond stuff, because, yeah, I want to save as much of that as I can. Let me see what else I'm able to get as an offer from this enchanting table. Fire protection, thorns, unbreaking, Fire protection, thorns, unbreaking, Silk touch, efficiency, unbreaking. That one's actually useful, but I don't have 30 levels. Smite, fortune, and efficiency. Possibly. Smite, unbreaking, knockback. I might want the smite on the axe. I don't know what I would use the axe for that would require fortune, though. Diamond shovel, chestplate, boots. Oh, I see what I did. Yeah, there we go. Because this spot up here is reserved for the trident. So yeah, that's the diamonds. Suppose I need to grab the food out of the smoker again, because that should be done by now. How many pumpkins do we got? 50. Nice. Well, it wasn't done, but it was getting pretty full. So, it's a good thing I went and collected it. Okay. So, where was I? Dragonus was... Dragonus had just made the cart golems. So, Dragonus had created these little carts for everyone so that we could all carry all of this, what is essentially fancy stone. We were carrying Earth Titan teeth, Earth Titan scales, that type of stuff. Or, sorry, Earth Leviathan, not Titan. But it was the equivalent of a Titan. So, same difference, really. It was definitely titanic. In more ways than one, as it was rather deeply submerged into the ground. And as far as my magics went, I didn't really have anything that would have affected it all that much, because it was A, very massive, B, it was mostly made out of stone, so the necrotic rain spell that I had from when Hades enchanted my equipment for me, that thing was useless in that battle, because it was made out of stone, and that spell doesn't affect stone. It affects organics. Stone is not an organic. So, stone was unaffected. Stone was not organic. Yeah, the materials were quite heavy, quite large, and so we carried out our supplies, our winnings upon these cart golems that were carrying our things for us. It was around this time that I had gathered enough of the dragon blood samples to craft a wine from it using my various alchemical skills and abilities. I wanted to try and create a wine that was very unique. I had heard about various different blends and brews, and it's like, okay, well, it can't be too difficult to make. I mean, I can do alchemy here. We're fine. So I went ahead and I made a wine out of the dragon's bloods, and I'm like, okay, well, I brewed this wine, I got it, and it's still fresh, but I wanna see how the vintage is. I wanna see just what kind of effects can I expect from this thing, because I don't want to start potentially selling this and then find out later, oh, well, it doesn't actually do anything. It's like, oh, that's stupid. I want it to be able to do something. So I created this massive rollable table with all these different options, and I showed it to Steve, the GM. I showed him that there were, exaggerated negatives, exaggerated positives, in case you managed to roll, maximum on the roll. You could end up with multiple effects. You could end up with 2 effects. You could end up with 3 effects. I think I limited it to 3 effects, though. But, yeah, it had a lot of different outcomes that were possible. However, what I ended up with was definitely a very very heartwarming option. Specifically, a spontaneous option. It was definitely spontaneous. As a matter of fact, it was spontaneous combustion. Dragonis took a swig of the potion, the dragon blood wine, as it was named, and then immediately caught fire. Spontaneously. She spontaneously caught fire, and so she fortunately was close enough to the water that she could just run and swan dive into the water off the pier of the dock. And so she survived by the grace of swan diving into the water. Just like, oh my, that's hot, that's hot, that's hot. Oh, run away, hop in the water. I'm just gonna be in here for a while. It's like, I can see that. You make any new concoctions lately? Maybe. Is that why you caught on fire? Maybe. Are you saying maybe because you think that if you say yes, you might get accused of something? Hey, we're in a city where everything is something that you can be accused of, okay? So, maybe. It's like, that's fair. It's not that you don't trust me or the guards, you just don't trust this city that we're in. Entirely. You just don't trust it. It's like, can you blame her? Have you seen the city we're in? It's like, fair point. Fair point. So, yeah, Dragonis spent a little time in the water, just taking a nice swim, enjoying the warmth of the water as she kind of simmered, I guess you could say. She preferred that option better than, burning alive. It's like, yes, it's painful, but you know what? Most of the damage is already done. Now she's just going to enjoy the cold water. It's like, we drive our boats through that water. It's like, yeah, you do. We lose sailors to that water. Really? That's too bad. How are you okay? Oh, my body's trying to catch fire as we speak. As a matter of fact, if I surface for too long, I might start to smolder and singe. So, sploosh. It's like, yeah. She made sure to stay safe. I didn't really know what to expect for my first result. I was not expecting to receive spontaneous combustion. But it's what happened. It is what it is, right? This is a very Harry Potter-esque look where I just look up and I see nothing but floating pumpkin flames. It's like, reminds me of Harry Potter. I'm just waiting for some evil dude to yell, "Trolls in the dungeon!" I mean, there aren't actually trolls in the dungeon, because if there were, I'd be down there beating them up, trying to get their loot. Because that's what I do. I'm going to go ahead and eat some of this dried kelp so that my character stops actually being hungry and they'll just kind of... They're a little hungry. And now they're hungry again. That's what I mean. Kelp has, like, no saturation. It's so annoying. So yeah, let's see. Dragonis was where was I? Dragonis was traveling around carrying all of this loot. She had to find some way to, of course, offload all of this loot. And also everyone wanted to visit this dragon sanctuary type place. I didn't know much about it, and then I was like, well, I don't know much about any type of dragon sanctuary thing. They were like, oh, it's awesome, it's this cool place, and they were telling me all about it, and I just went, I do have a very important question, though. And they said, what's that? And I said, would Dragonis know any of this information? And they just thought about it for a moment, like, huh. Now that you mention it, no, she wouldn't. It's like, yeah. So why am I learning about it? They're like, well, so you can, like, use the information. It's like, but my character never learned that information exists. And they're like, you have a very valid point. Your character has no idea that any of this information exists. Huh. It's like, yeah. So there you go. I think Steve liked that part best because that was me saying don't metagame without even knowing what metagaming was. So I think Steve really liked that one. Because like, it's always nice to have a player who's actually trying to play the game as, you know, as intended, where you're actually uncovering the lore of the world instead of just having it all hand-fed to you. It's like, you know, there's a story behind that stuff. There is? Never noticed. It's like, yeah, maybe if you stopped murdering everything, you'd see that. Yeah, so this is a perfect example of how the water is limiting the light level. Up above the water, it's got a massive light radius. Down below the water, not so much. So the water is definitely providing a lot of blocking of the light. That being said, that does give me a few ideas of roofing options. So yeah, I was thinking that it might be beneficial to utilize 3 layers of water instead of some form of cobble generator. Some form of cobblestone generator. Because since the 3 layers of water would block out pretty much any light, maybe 4 layers, the 3rd layer is actually overkill. But since the light would get blocked out by all of the water, all you would really need is some automated way of stopping the water from getting out. The problem with that is, of course, that the cobble generator is much more simple. It's much easier to manipulate a cobblestone generator than it is to manipulate a a massive automated water stream. However, I'm sure there is a use somewhere for moving water streams. By which I mean, like, utilizing the stair block or a half slab block in order to transport a waterlogged water source in the same block. I'm sure there's a use for it. However, I don't know what that would be. I'm just happy to have the option, you know. If I ever need one, I will know that I will have access to it. Because I'm sure there is a use. I know that, for example, mobile water sources are useful in full auto mining machines, which make use of a TNT duplicator to make it full auto. Otherwise, you could just load it up with TNT and have it do all the blasting and whatnot. And yeah, it's an option, but I prefer having it just go down, gather all the ore and all the stone and stuff, and just have it feed me the stuff so that I don't have to run around and gather it myself. Instead, have it feed me the stuff and have it so that I don't need to go running off into a cave somewhere, for example. Instead, I just have a bunch of sticky blocks, like honey blocks and slime blocks, go down, boop out and boop in, pull back any materials that they might have found, and then go up, and then I would have some form of sweeper arm just drag along it and gather all of the materials that were mined up, and then I would have all of that feed into me just sitting there with a pickaxe mining, diamond pickaxe, efficiency 5 or what have you, with mending, because I'm going to need it to deal with all of the various rock that I'm going to be mining through, as well as, of course, all of the diamond, coal, emeralds, redstone, gold, iron, andesite, diorite, granite. What else am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting one. Clay and dirt. I would need to find some way to deal with the clay and the dirt, actually. The gravel and the sand would be pretty easy, because I could just use a vertical item filter, basically. Or, no, a horizontal item filter. Horizontal block filter? Yeah, that one. Yeah, which is basically I push the block sideways and see if anything falls. If it does, it lands on a torch. And that torch is, of course, sitting atop a hopper, which then picks up the item, which then feeds the item into a storage chest, which then feeds the item into an item filter storage system. So yeah, lots of progress being made here. Like, you can literally see how far down I've dug this this recording session. And keep in mind, half of those were submerged when I started. So not only did I dig out below all of those, but I also dug out all of those themselves. So yeah, lots of progress getting made here. I know it seems like I'm just mindlessly digging, but this is so that I'm able to have lots of vertical room for my base, as well as making sure that nothing is spawning around my base, like around the back of the cliffs, for example. Because I've had a lot of monsters spawning back there, and I'm pretty sure that's causing a lot of lag. So I want to go ahead and clear up the various monsters that are spawning back there, while simultaneously making sure that I am making a lot of progress on my base.